So it's 6:45 in the morning, Lou. What are you thinking?
Man, we should do something that Arch Grants has never done before. You know, we've got this equipment, we've got these lights. In fact, I think that car is all loaded up with cameras. We should follow Jim around all day. Look at all the companies he's built. Look at all the people he's impacted. Heck, that would be an amazing adventure.
I like it, and I think I know where he's having breakfast.
That's fantastic. Let's go.
Jim is a fan of Skrillex.
Is Jim still in there?
Yeah, they're both still in there, but I have other members in there. This is a lot.
You guys might actually get the cussing scene out of me naturally at this point. Can you tell him that his assistant called and that he has a 9 o'clock? They're coming.
Yeah. Hi, Dave and Jerry with Arch Grants.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Jim
Dave,
Willard.
yes. Jim, today we're presenting you with the Entrepreneur Award from Arch Grants, and we're going to spend the day with you and learn a little bit about what it's like in the life of Jim McKelvey.
Okay. All right, well, time to get to work.
Sounds good.
And I do. Hey, Michael.
Hey, morning, Jim. How are you?
You got a second?
I do.
Great, okay. So I was thinking what would really be cool would be to know if our users are creative or how creative they are. And I was thinking, well, how do we learn this? And then I was like, oh, wait a second. Like if you're left-brained or maybe it's right-brained, then you're creative. And if you're right-brained or left-brained, I don't know, one of those, then you'll be sort of numerical. And so what I thought what we could do is figure out which hand the person was holding their device in, and you could get the accelerometer movements. Therefore, if they're holding their device in the left brain, then they're right brain, and then they're not creative. Or if they're holding in the right hand, then they're left brain, and they are creative. And then we could target our ads to the people based on their level of creativity. Right? Make sense?
Totally. Got
I think
it.
so. Yeah. Okay. That's good. And my grass is looking really tall too.
So, track users, mow the grass.
Thank you.
Got it. Thanks, Jim. Okay. Jim's usual workday starts around noon to 1 in the afternoon. And at 1, he always wants his latte, 1 on the dot. And then always a donut, but with only blue sprinkles typically. And then sometimes he'll hop down the hallway with an idea. And, brilliance works in mysterious ways. Sometimes that idea is executable, but oftentimes it's not. It's my job to be the filter to actually spend resources against things that are viable. The first few years here, he'd say, Dan, wax the Tesla, Dan, get me a Diet Coke. And I think he knew my name, but was like an ego check. So it's gotten better, and it looks like this spring I'll get to mow the yard.
So Jim, we're on our way to a speech engagement you have.
Yeah, it's a virtual one. I got to give a speech. I was supposed to give a speech in Chicago today, but they made it virtual, so I'm just going to phone it in. I mean, literally.
Literally phoning it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your process? Do you prep for these a great deal? Do you kind of run with an idea?
A lot of times they want to give me the questions in advance, and I don't want to know the questions in advance because I feel like it's stilted and scripted, and it robs the audience of something that's fun. And so, I feel so sorry for the audience member who's sitting there just, digesting this sort of pre-chewed content that's been sanitized and run through HR and PR and, you know. So I purposely try to arrive open-minded and largely ignorant, you know. And sometimes it leads to some really embarrassing moments, but other times it leads to really interesting insights that I don't think I could script.
I hate public speaking. It's not one of my strengths whatsoever, but
You should hate public speaking if you have any chance of being a good public speaker. You should be afraid of it. Over time, you get slightly less afraid of it, but more comfortable, at least I found, working in a state of fear. I find myself in enough situations where I am scared that I do somewhat seek out scary situations to practice operating under duress, because I don't want to freeze.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things I will do are uncomfortable for me, but they help me a little bit learn how to be uncomfortable and still function.
Yeah.
So I'm used to doing public speaking in a state of semi-terror, because that's kind of how I feel. But I still do it, and over time I've gotten used to that fear, and I don't think it impedes me as much as it used to.
What's the biggest audience you've ever spoken in front of?
I did a stadium with about 100,000 people in it. It was maybe 10 or 15,000 in the stadium, and then it was simulcast to a bunch of other stadiums. But it was so great, because the more people you have, the easier it gets. Because once you're past 1,000 people, hecklers are no problem. And I don't think hecklers in this country really have much of a presence anymore. But you're just not going to get a disruptive audience member when you've got that many. So you can completely forget about that. And then you can tell a joke that 1% of the audience gets, and in a 15,000 person stadium, you got 150 people laughing. Yeah. So you could get some really, really good sort of communication and humor going, because there's always that one guy who thinks it's funny, who gets it, who understands, and then you can't do that in a small group. So Caitlin, I might have to go to the East Coast again, and I think that the American schedule has been padded, because I know that the times are different if you're flying east or west, and I think the Gulf Stream is pretty strong today. So could you check the winds at 30,000 feet and find out actually what the anticipated time is? Because I think they might be able to get in early, in which case I'd be able to get into the meeting. Yeah. Thanks. Child lock.
$30,000 feet, Gulf Stream, East Coast.
Jim,
Yeah,
I got the glass.
you got the glass.
Just got here from Germany.
Oh,
This is what you wanted, yeah?
yeah, but I wanted blue, like blue. Yeah, here, like that. And by the way, my heel just came off my shoe. Do you have any drywall screws or something? Or
You want me to screw your shoe back together?
yeah, take it over to Maid, air nail it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Can I use your shoe in the meantime?
Yeah.
You're 10.
Same size. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Here, take those. On an everyday basis, Jim, I couldn't tell you what he does. If I'm lucky, I see the guy once a month. He'll usually show up and have some complaint about something, right? Whether it's the color of the paint on the walls. 2005, he goes to the Glass Art Society's annual conference, international conference, big deal. In fact, Jess is standing right here. She's there with him. Yeah, and these two agree that Third Degree St. Louis should host this conference in 2006. Unbeknownst to me, I'm the one running this place, all right? So at this point, we're not ready. We don't even have bathrooms. There's no air conditioning. Our front door is bolted on with some drywall screws. And they show up and they're Doug, we've got news for you. We landed the conference for 06. And I'm oh, f***ing great. Guess who's gonna do all the work? So yeah, so for the next year, I spend all of my time preparing for this conference and making good on all of the promises. Did we pull it off? Yeah, we did. Well, I did.
we're headed to the St. Louis headquarters of Squirrel, or Square.
Square? It was originally called Squirrel.
I read that.
Yeah.
It was a fascinating story.
But Squirrel was actually already taken by another point of sale company, so we had to go to Square.
I remember the first Square readers or some of the early models, and they plugged into the iPhone 3.5 millimeter jack.
Yep.
I had no appreciation for like what that actually meant in terms of like turning the signal from the digital information from the credit card into an audio signal. Did I understand that correctly?
There's a magazine called Make, and one of their issues had this guy who turned his flip phone into a credit card reader. So it was not an original idea. It was one that was, sort of borrowed from this magazine.
That theme of building on something that already exists seemed like an often, a theme of the book, the innovation stack. And don't go out and create the wheel, figure out how to make the wheel better. Is that a too simplistic a take on the theme?
I think so.
Yeah.
But, like everybody, it's like whatever the song means to you is what it means to you. What I wanted people to do was not instinctively recoil when they were confronted with a situation where they couldn't copy the solution. And, we give all this lip service to being innovative and doing new things, but most people, including myself, hate doing new things. Whenever I have to, solve some new problem, like I'll first try to find if somebody else has solved it. It's only when I exhaust that option of copying that I'm willing to maybe build something new. But I think a lot of people, if they don't recognize how difficult it is, think that they're not worthy of it. They sit there, the fault must be me, because clearly all these other people who are smarter or richer or brighter or younger or older, whatever the superlative is that they lack, will say, well, if I was only X, then I would do it, but I'm not, so I'll just sit on the sidelines. And I don't want people sitting on the sidelines. I want people to realize that, look, even the most successful people in the world, like, Giannini, were not qualified for doing the thing that made them famous. If you want to become famous, you do that, at least in the business world, by doing something you are completely unqualified for doing.
Who was an entrepreneur that you may have seen as an inspiration, if ever, or if anybody?
I think what Elon Musk is doing as a contemporary entrepreneur is pretty significant.
Yeah.
And what I like about Elon is that he made all this money, and then he did two crazy things with it. One, started SpaceX, and then two, he propped up Tesla, and basically rescued Tesla. And in both cases, the world thought he was nuts, and he proved them wrong. But he tried landing, rocket ships like this, and it would do that, and then the next rocket ship, and it would do that, and then, but eventually, the guy sticks the landing, and he's a hero. But it takes so much guts to be able to bet not only your money but your reputation, because people make fun of you until it works.
Yeah.
And people say, I told you it wouldn't work, and you're an idiot, and they call you all sorts of names. But I think Elon's ability to sort of risk it all and then execute is laudable.
What's the biggest risk you've taken since founding Square and building this company?
Of doing this video.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was hoping to hear.
Jim, you got your badge?
Oh, they'll let me in.
Okay.
Hello, can I help you, sir?
Hi, I'm Jim. Could you let me in?
Jim who?
I'll get my badge. Oh, hey, JB. Yeah. So I love the fact that we were able to turn the entrance of the building around to the north.
Yeah.
But it's not getting enough attention. So we got to do something to make St. Louis notice the fact that we're facing north now.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
So I'm thinking what we do is we cantilever a couple of beams off the 7th floor and get over Cole Street so people can bungee jump, because bungee jumping is really cool.
Yeah.
And the employees will like it. Now what we're going to do, we're going to need to do the calcs, and then you'll need to weigh the Square employees, because we need to calibrate the bungee cords per person,
But then everyone will be paying attention. And,
Right.
and find out how long it is to the nearest trauma unit.
And there's only 6 floors in the building. You know that, right? Not 7.
Could we add a 7th?
We sure could. A few months after I met Jim, he calls me up and he's like, JB, I got this thing we got to do. There's a bachelor auction for the Multiple Sclerosis Society. Basically, we would stand up there, offer a date package, and be auctioned off. So we go in, we go to this auction, and we were a little bit less mature, I guess, than many of the people there. But we go through this auction, and it was what it was. But the crazy thing is, Jim's date package was something I believe he came up with, urban spelunking, where we went cave diving, I guess, in the old Lemp Brewery. And this was the package. And so we ended up going on this double date where we went through the caves. There were a couple spots where we're like fitting through doors and things like that. No lives were lost, but we did not get second dates.
Speaking of Giannini again, the story about him crossing the river naked with his clothes on his head to buy the almonds.
Naked. Yeah.
So what was that moment, if you were to transpose that onto your entrepreneurial journey? Like what was that moment for you?
I stripped my way into an account once at the Institute of Transportation Engineers in Washington, D.C.
Oh, please.
Yep.
I want to hear more of that. Was this like a selling point of an event?
So this is
like,
before 9/11, and you know
Okay.
you could basically cold call people because they didn't lock the doors, and I'd cold call these guys who totally needed our product. They just wouldn't meet with me, and I was getting more and more pissed off. And I went there in a suit because I had another meeting, and I was waiting in the lobby, and I noticed off the lobby was a conference room, and in the conference room were a bunch of ladies that looked like they were having a party, like a birthday party or something for somebody. And I don't know where this idea came to me, but I thought, I'll just go in to that room, and I had my suit on, had a briefcase, stuck my briefcase on the table. I changed the music to something with more of a beat, right? I just took over the room, and then just started gyrating, taking my clothes off, jacket off, necktie, throw the necktie, shirt off, you know, and then, you know, I'm about to take my watch off. I glanced down at my watch and I was like, hey, is it 2 a.m. or 2 p.m.? And they're like, it's 2 p.m. And I'm like, oh man, I mixed up my jobs. They started just screaming. And I was like, well, I'm here to talk to your boss. And 3 women ran down the hall and dragged this guy into the meeting where I proceeded to get another meeting where I sold him $100,000 worth of stuff. So this is basically where we moved LaunchCode temporarily, when the Del Mar building is being rebuilt. So Del Mar is basically a class, and we needed more space for more students. So in order to do that, we're sort of gutting Del Mar and building a really, showpiece property on Del Mar on the north side, and then we're going to open that up. But in the meantime, we have to keep LaunchCode going. So we had this extra building that we actually moved the Post-Dispatch into, and there was an empty floor. So we just gave this to LaunchCode so they could be here and do their mission.
That's fantastic. And tell me about the mission of LaunchCode, Jim.
LaunchCode is creating a talent surplus in tech for St. Louis. So all the companies here are having trouble growing, partially because we can't hire the tech talent that we need. So LaunchCode is a program that's training massive numbers of people for free to become programmers, and then they help the whole region grow.
And what led you to co-found LaunchCode?
Well, the tech shortage, but more specifically, we had a murder. We had somebody who was gunned down delivering a pizza. And I just thought about what it would take to kill a pizza delivery boy and how desperate this city was in some parts. And I didn't have a solution, but at the same time, Square was trying to hire programmers. And I was like, man, if we had more programmers, then I realized, wait a second, we've got 100,000 people below the poverty line in St. Louis. And if we train them for free, a certain percentage of them would be naturally gifted as programmers. And so it was just an experiment. We didn't know if it was going to work, but we started and it worked.
So as soon as it started working, we realized, well, we just need to, sort of throw fuel on this fire. So that's what we've been doing for the last 7 years. And the new center on Del Mar is going to be fantastic because it's going to be this inspiring place where people come and for free get a world-class education and a job.
That's amazing. And where is LaunchCode now? I mean, started in St. Louis. I know you have presence elsewhere.
So yes, so we're opening up Philly. We've got an office in Kansas City. We've got some remote activities, and actually Jeff's the guy to talk to because he moves so fast I can't keep up with him. Oh, hey Jeff. So we got funded at Invisibly by the same guys who backed Tesla. All right. And I was realizing as I was asking the other day for a favor to get a Tesla solar roof, if maybe I could get one of SpaceX's old rockets. So I think they've got an extra rocket for us. And it's one of the rockets where they didn't stick the landing and the thing fell over. So it's cracked, but it still looks like a rocket. So I'm thinking, okay, LaunchCode rocket. So we're building this new place on Del Mar. What I want to do is get the rocket, all right? And if it stands up, we can build indoor skydiving. But if it doesn't stand, we tip it against the building and use it as either an entryway or a slide.
Sounds great.
Good. Awesome. We'll see you.
Jim has put me in this beautiful office, as you can see. Lots of space, nobody here to distract me from the important work of LaunchCode. On an everyday basis, I think Jim does a lot of really important and deep thinking about stuff. For a while there, we were working on the world's largest ever computer science class, and we were going to put, I think, 15,000 people in the Miami Heat arena. We're still conceptualizing that idea.
I think one of the great things that I'd like to give to St. Louis is maybe bring down just a little bit of this conservative nature in the business community that has to show that something is popular before we embrace it.
Yeah.
Let's embrace the unpopular. Let's talk about the stuff that nobody else talks about, and then see how we stack up against Nashville.
Yeah. I mean, when you first became involved with Arch Grants, is part of what attracted you to that because it was kind of a ridiculous idea? Or was it just a favor to be done? Or
Well, it was an unproven idea.
Yes.
I don't know how ridiculous it was, but it was one where you couldn't point to another model and say, well, we're just copying what they did in Pittsburgh.
What's the challenge you would give Arch Grants or our founders, specifically now, that this model, this formerly unproven model of economic development is working? What's a big idea I can steal from you, Jim?
Well, I mean, I don't know that you need to steal a big idea because you've got an idea that's already now proven to work. And so, I mean, this is what I say in the book is don't embrace innovation for innovation's sake. Don't feel like you need to invent something new. If it's working, fine, keep it working. And actually part of the natural process of innovation is you experiment until something works. And then once it works, you just repeat. So you may be at the stage now, which LaunchCode I think is at, where the model works, repeat, scale. Go bigger, go faster, go wider, but don't necessarily try to reinvent the model. For the entrepreneurs who are listening, I would say take advantage of the fact that, much like you can experiment, in college with a bunch of stuff that might be very dangerous to do out in the real world, if you are in a program where you're sort of playing with house money, you can afford to take some bigger risk and take some longer shots. And I've actually backed some of the companies that have come through Arch Grants personally with actually millions of dollars. So I think a lot of the bets are going to pay off.
What an exciting day traveling around with Jim, seeing a little bit of what he brings to St. Louis. Really, it's just a glimpse of how much he does to make St. Louis better. Entrepreneurs aspire to change the way the world works. That requires time, money, and talent. The company I co-founded was fortunate enough to discover Arch Grants and apply for the 2013 class. Along with being invited to present our story, we were encouraged to participate in various networking events throughout the community to learn more about the St. Louis ecosystem. As I was punctually walking into such an event, I caught out of the corner of my eye someone walking in the opposite direction. That person was none other than Jim McKelvey. I immediately turned around, ran up to Jim, put my hand out and said, "Hi, I'm Lou Alaruzo, and I co-founded a biotech company trying to change the way we treat cancer." Jim looked at me, clearly in a rush, but also a bit intrigued, and said, "Okay, Lou, you have 30 seconds." In those 30 seconds, I explained to Jim that Immunophotonics is developing a new drug that transforms an everyday surgical procedure called tumor ablation into a systemic immunotherapy against cancer. At the end of my short introduction, Jim replied, "That's actually interesting. I'd like to know more." And since that interaction, I've had the pleasure to be challenged by Jim multiple steps along my journey. The award tonight is presented to only the best St. Louis business leaders who take an inspiring approach to growing their business, are active in civic leadership, and make outstanding contributions to St. Louis. In honor of our first conversation, here's my 30 seconds on Jim. Jim asks the right questions whenever he wants, expecting a genuine answer. When he believes in something, he isn't afraid to take a leap, but he will do his research before doing so and on the way down. Jim is always driving to solve problems, which has the unfortunate consequence of always developing and discovering new problems that need to be solved. In fact, that's a term that Jim has coined called the innovation stack. And of course, despite all odds, he isn't afraid of new challenges, will put in the hard work, but expects everyone else to do the same. As a humble representative of the St. Louis entrepreneurial community, I'm excited to present Jim McKelvey with the 2021 Arch Grants Entrepreneur Award.